Have you ever left to find your own life?
Welcome, this is Bookspresso.
I'll brew a strong cup of a book for you.
After the story of the book is over, I will ask you the same question again. Please share your story in the comments. This is Hermann Hesse's novel, Siddhartha. Our story begins from the deep inner self of a boy. He was Siddhartha, the son of a respected Brahmin family. He received praise from everyone. His gaze was calm, his walk was dignified, and his wise words were like a clear spring. Everyone believed without a doubt that he would naturally grow into a great Brahmin. He learned sacred wisdom and was skilled in meditation and prayer. His soul already seemed to have transcended everything. However, deep in Siddhartha's heart, there was always an unknown thirst. Everything felt empty, as if he were standing in the middle of a vast desert. There was a something that could not be filled by all the knowledge, prayers, and rituals he had learned. I'm not satisfied with this knowledge. My soul must find my true self. This longing gradually consumed his inner being like a great wave. He constantly asked himself questions. What is the true self? And finally, Siddhartha decided to abandon his father and all his comfortable life and leave. He was accompanied by his old friend Govinda, who wanted to leave with him. Govinda's eyes were shining with respect and faith towards Siddhartha. He vowed to go with Siddhartha wherever he went. Their first journey was to find the ascetics, or samanas. The samanas were those who sought the liberation of the soul through extreme asceticism. On the hot desert sand they endured hunger and thirst, and thoroughly denied themselves. Their bodies turned into gaunt shadows. Siddhartha fully followed their way of life. He starved all day, did not sleep, and pushed his body to the extreme in the cold forest. Govinda believed that Siddhartha's soul would soon reach enlightenment. However, Siddhartha's inner self remained calm. The more he suppressed his body through asceticism, the more his ego seemed to writhe strongly. He began to realize that pain only provided temporary oblivion, but it was not the path to eternal enlightenment. Asceticism was not an act of discovering the true self, but rather an act of fleeing from the existence of me. I cannot deceive my inner self. Asceticism is just an escape from myself. Then the rumor that Buddha had appeared in the world reached them. It was Gautama Buddha who had achieved perfect enlightenment and reached nirvana. Siddhartha went to find the Buddha with Govinda. The Buddha's face was gentle and serene. His mere presence brought an ineffable tranquility, as if all suffering disappeared. He preached the truths of the world clearly and concisely. Govinda was fascinated by the Buddha's perfect teachings and decided to become his disciple. But Siddhartha chose a different path from Govinda. He acknowledged that the Buddha's teachings were an excellent truth. He showed respect for the Buddha's perfect state. However, he believed that enlightenment could only be obtained through one's own experience. He thought that no matter how great a master's teaching was, it was only a complete truth and could not be an experience realized through one's own life. A master's teaching is ultimately the master's. I must find my own enlightenment. He said his final goodbye to Govinda and left alone. This was a declaration that he would become independent from all masters and authority and rely solely on his inner self. Siddhartha, left alone, now entered the world of karma. That was the world full of desires and suffering, the secular world. By the river he met a fascinating woman, Kamala. Kamala was a beautiful and wise courtesan. She taught Siddhartha the beauty and pleasure of the material world. Siddhartha learned about love and desire through Kamala, and about money and commerce through a merchant named Kamaswami. He wore silk clothes, lived in a splendid house, and ate delicious food. Siddhartha did everything perfectly. He succeeded as a merchant and gained money, power, and pleasure.
Everyone envied him.
But Siddhartha's soul was once again consumed by emptiness. He had everything on the outside, but his inner self was becoming more and more barren. He felt his soul becoming numb, as if it had fallen asleep. He realized that he was becoming just like the childlike people he had so despised. He found himself obsessed with possessions and consumed by jealousy and hatred. His soul now began to be crushed by a terrible fatigue. I've become someone else. My soul is slowly dying. His inner world felt like hell. He was tormented by nightmares every night and destroyed himself with alcohol and gambling. He felt a sense of disgust towards everything. Finally, Siddhartha decided to abandon everything and leave again. He left his house and returned to the place where he had first crossed the river. Siddhartha was about to throw himself into the river. At that moment, the sound of Om resonated in his heart. It was the sound of his own soul. He finally faced himself at the moment he was about to deny everything and abandon himself. This realization saved Siddhartha from the brink of death, and he decided to stay by the river to start everything anew. He met an old ferryman, Vasudeva, who was quietly rowing his boat by the river. Vasudeva was a wise and compassionate person. His face was as serene as the river itself. Siddhartha told his story to Vasudeva, and Vasudeva listened in silence. And Siddhartha became a ferryman, continuing his life with Vasudeva by the river. He no longer tried to learn. He simply listened to the river. The river taught him everything. The river constantly flowed, yet always remained in the same place. This meant that the past, present, and future were not separated, but connected as one. The river held all sounds.
Laughter, crying, the chirping of birds, the sound of fish swimming, and all the voices of pain and joy resonated together.
The river was everything. That was the truth, that everything in the world is one. Everything is one, and one is everything. Life is a flowing river. Siddhartha no longer wandered in search of enlightenment. He was already in the middle of enlightenment. He became one with the river. One day, after a long time, Govinda came to find the old Siddhartha again. Govinda was still wandering in search of enlightenment. Siddhartha smiled and said to Govinda, "Do not try to find the peace and truth in your heart. You are already peace and truth." Govinda looked at Siddhartha's face. His face seemed like a river that contained everything. Govinda saw everything in him. Countless faces, expressions, and the joys and sorrows of life were contained in that face. He saw himself in Siddhartha's eyes and realized everything. Govinda shed tears as he gained enlightenment. Siddhartha was no longer someone. He was everything.
Have you ever left to find your own life?
This was Bookspresso. Thank you.